Today we will be exploring vectors from a very practical and intuitive perspective. If you're familiar with the term vectors, you've likely heard the conventional definition, a quantity that represents both direction and magnitude.
Because I'm committing crimes with both direction and magnitude. Oh yeah!
Vectors can exist in multiple dimensions. While the most common used dimensions are 2, 3, and 4, they can extend to as many dimensions as needed. Let's begin understanding vectors in 2 dimensions and then translate the understanding to 3 and 4 dimensions. Imagine you have a map and you need to direct someone to a specific location. You could say, go 200 meters to the right and 300 meters straight, which describes a 2-dimensional vector represented by coordinates 200 and 300. Alternatively, you could simply point in that direction and indicate the distance. This illustrates the essence of vectors, direction and magnitude. This can translate to 3 dimensions as well. Let's say this is a 3-dimensional map. The directions would go something like this: 200 meters to the right, 300 meters ahead, and 100 meters up. Now, if they could fly, you could just point in the direction and tell them the distance of travel. A unit vector is a vector that has direction but no specific magnitude. Technically, it's referred to as zero or null vector, the distinction being zero vector provides no information about the distance, while unit vector tells you to take one step in that direction. In practical terms, unit vector is kind of useless in itself. Imagine you ask somebody for directions and they just merely point in the general direction of where you need to go and just walk away. Kind of useless, right? Unless your destination is clearly visible. In that case, you would immediately know where to go. Forward and right vectors are type of unit vectors that indicate the forward and right directions based on your current orientation. This leads us to one of the most exciting applications of vector, and that is video games. Consider playing games like Counter-Strike or Valorant. For those who aren't gamers, these games are where you shoot the other player with a gun in the game. In such games, your mouse movement determines the forward vector or the direction of the weapon. When you click the mouse button, the game is programmed to fire a bullet in the direction of the forward vector of the weapon. The magnitude of this vector dictates how far the bullet can travel before becoming ineffective, essentially the range of the bullet. When you press W on your keyboard, your character moves forward. This action instructs the game to move the character in the direction of its forward vector. The game achieves this by taking the forward vector, which indicates the direction, and adjusting its magnitude to say 2. As long as you hold down W, the game continuously adds 2 to the character's current position in the forward direction. If you want to increase the speed, you can change the vector's magnitude to 4, allowing your character to move at double the speed. The same principle, of course, applies to A and D keys that help in right and left directional movements. Now, dot product is a part of vector math that students generally learn how to solve on paper. However, its practical purpose is often left unexplored. The dot product of 2 vectors pointing towards each other would be -1, perpendicular to each other would be 0, and pointing in the same direction would be 1. Here's a unique application of dot products. Now this, of course, is an apple. Every point on the surface of this apple is facing outwards. These are called normal vectors. Basically, these are vectors that indicate the direction of every point on the surface of this apple. Now I have a light source on this side, so the light vector would look something like this, and if we perform a dot product of all these normal vectors with the light vector, we get values ranging from -1 to +1. Now all these points are in the opposite direction of the light vector, these points are in perpendicular direction of the light vector, and these points are in the same direction of the light vector. If I paint all the points that are close to -1 as bright red, close to 0 as red, and close to 1 as dark red, we get a cartoon shaded apple. You can split these into as many shades as you want. Vectors have numerous applications in the world of digital art. Photoshop is a raster-based software that operates on pixels, which can lead to pixelation when you zoom in. In contrast, Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based software. When you draw a line in Illustrator, it saves the stroke as vector points rather than pixels. Each point knows precisely where it is connecting to next, defining both direction and distance. This means regardless how large you print your graphic or how much you zoom into it, it will always look crisp. The colors and points on the stroke are calculated in real time as opposed to predetermined for specific pixels. Believe me or not, we have merely scratched the surface of vectors. Vectors are intricate and fascinating if understood correctly. For example, what is a 4-dimensional vector? While we have only 3 spatial dimensions, high-dimensional vectors are used for other applications, such as digital colors. In the digital realm, colors can be represented as a 4D vector, holding values red, green, blue, and alpha, which is transparency. Now note, a color lacks direction or magnitude. Explaining vectors in a single video would be unjust. However, there is so much more to learn. I hope this video sparked just enough curiosity to encourage you to learn some more. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.